these real old insulators. They look like a mushroom. They're antique kind of stuff, so this place needs some work.
Oh, yeah. That's just two wires. There's two legs of 110, 220 come into your house, basically. And an earth ground. That's how it works.
Well, these don't even have a ground on them. It's just a two-wire system. It's old antique stuff. And I've seen one place where they had a ground system hooked up there, and it was hooked to some other line or something. And, man, I couldn't even figure out what the heck they had going on there. It looked like it went to the cable or something, man. They had a different ground going there.
I knew this kid that his dad was a lineman and worked his way all the way up in the power company, and he got in at the ground level and became a lineman, and he's doing quite well now. But they basically told him it's not a matter of if, it's when you get zapped. They go up there and they shut the wires, they test, and they shut down the drops so they're not getting power. And every once in a while, one of those guys gets blown off a pole and barbecued because power feeds from another somewhere else where something's been jury-rigged together.
Yeah, I knew a guy that got blowed up like that. I did a pretty good job putting it back together, though, I gotta say.
It's dangerous stuff. I came home one day. I had this old house, and it had like a 4-foot chain-link fence all the way around it. And I had a gate that swung open. There's just enough room to pull my pickup into the driveway and unlock the gate and push it open and drive in. I pulled in there one day and I grabbed the fence and I looked down and I could have sworn I saw sparks. I was like, what the hell? And my mind said, I know I just saw sparks when I touched that padlock and that chain on that fence. I got steel-toe boots on, so I just stood back and I kicked it, and a big old spark jumped. I said, what in the hell? I start looking around and I'm seeing little wisps of smoke, and I look at the bottom of the fence and the fence is actually burning the grass, the weeds on the fence. I was like, what? So I stood way back and I started looking. The first thing I did is I called 911. I said, man, my fence is on fire. There's electricity. Call the electric company and get a fire truck out here. And all of a sudden I see flames out in the woods. Because I had like an acre and a half at the fence. And what had happened is there was a drop that they'd cut to a building that used to be in my next door neighbor's place. And the lineman, instead of cutting the wire, just looped it up and threw a plastic wire tie up there. And I guess the wind came along and broke it. That ground strap fell, and it was a straight 110 leg going right down to that fence. And it just arced the whole fence and set the grass on fire.
Yeah, I've seen them do that like after a hurricane. They'll coil it up on the pole or something like that, and I'm going, man, it doesn't look too fake.
It's not. They should have whacked it off. They have ways to connect wire. They should have cut it off and insulated it and sealed it. Heat shrink, whatever, so it can't fall. They're just lazy. How'd you like to be the lineman? You're standing out there in muddy, wet work boots, and one of those lines comes down and nails you. You're dead instantly.
Over here in Texas City, man, I don't know what's wrong with their lights, their traffic lights over there. Anytime it rains, it used to be bad when you just had a hurricane, but now anytime it rains over there, they got flashing lights, and the worst place you got to go getting off the freeway going onto Main Street there, where you just you're taking your chance because people don't know when to go or when to stop or what to do.
I guarantee you there's a bad ground somewhere. Doesn't take a genius to figure it out, man. It's alternating current with two legs of 110 coming in, unless it's 3-phase or 4-phase.
Well, I'm just wondering why they don't fix the cotton picking thing. Apparently they fix it, but they don't fix it right.
They can't. There's so much of it. It would take them 20 years if they started right now to redo it. All they can do is put enough crews out there to fix stuff. Why do you think when they have a hurricane, they send people down from Chicago and New York, and they all start working, and everybody's just patching and jury rigging? That's all it is. Everything's held together with duct tape and baling wire. Our whole infrastructure. The major cities, like Chicago and New York, and I was reading an article in New York when they cut a hole in the street, they got blueprints and stuff, and they see stuff, they're like, what's this? It's cast iron. There's steam lines underneath the city that haven't been used in 100 years. They just keep laying layer after layer after layer, and they hope when they cut through something, it's not being used. You don't even know what it is, it's so old.
Yeah, I've looked at some prints. I forget what they're special kind. I forget what it is, but it comes out on a graph paper when I was doing underground utilities, and it'll show, you know, what depth it is and all this and that and everything on that graph. But you get there and you find out, oh, it ain't even like that.
I had a buddy of mine in Tomball. He owned this company called Fine Lines or something. They did custom homes and remodeling and stuff. Anyway, he got this job to dig out a bunch of dirt around the Tomball Hospital. He went to the city and pulled blueprints, and he got a surveyor out there, and they said, yep, it's right here. It's within here and here, within 2 foot. So we went 8 feet over and dug down, and he nailed a main water line, shut down the whole hospital and 5 city blocks of water, and there's a geyser going up in the air, and the city officials came up, and they were starting to write him citations, and he said, no, I pulled the permits and did this, and there's this one old man that was like 80 years old that was retired. They don't have any of this stuff documented. They went to his house, knocked on his door, and helped him into the car because he doesn't walk so good anymore, and they brought him out there in his work boots, and he said, no, we did that back in 1942, and that line's actually 10 feet over here. Those blueprints are wrong. That's when Bubba was doing it. He wasn't a real good drawer. That's their backup, is the 80-something-year-old guy. Well, what's going to happen when he dies? Nobody has any record of where this stuff is buried.
Well, that's a lot of what's wrong with all these plants we got around here. All the folks are retiring, and they got educated folks in there that don't know anything.
Up around Michigan, there's whole cities that are sinking because they put, I don't know what it is, 1 million PSI or just something like that is the water pressure going out. The object is to get water pressure at 45 PSI or whatever at every single garden hose at every house. Well, people would pull up and they'd park their car in the front yard and they'd come back and their car was gone. It would just sink into a mud hole, and the house foundations are sinking because the main water lines are so old and cast iron that it just seeps through the side and it saturates the ground. It's like a soaker hose throughout the whole city. You know, it's 105-year-old pipes going through this whole place. They try and dig down and put, you know, their old lead lines that have broken and cast iron lines. They try and go and put PVC inside of them and patch it, but there's so many miles that it's, if they tried to fix it today with the city budget that's running all those water lines, they're basically looking at 30 years of the total budget of the city just to fix the water lines today. It's a matter of patching. There's no fixing, so the houses become condemned and people move out.
And the problem they got in Houston there is they didn't, back in the day, they didn't use stabilized fans. So if you got time where it's real wet, and then you get another time where it's real dry, well, everything breaks. And we were under a drought one time when I was working for the cable company, and I don't know how many lines broke. They were breaking all over Houston, but we had one right in front of the shop right there, which was very handy. And anyhow, it ran there for about a week or two, I think, and we were under a drought.
Oh yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, you can't even water your yard, but you can have a gusser going out there. Some of those pipes that up in the Galleria when I worked over there, we had to cut into some of those pipes, and those pipes are made out of asbestos.
fading away. I think the band's going away.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Well, let's call it a night then. It's been fun. We'll do it again some other night. KF5 SPZ clear. Good night, George.
All right, good night. I'll move on down the band airways. Catch you later, KFS CDG.
Going okay up here.
This cold weather, it's just about 17 degrees up here at Lufkin this morning. I'm afraid to ask you guys how cold it is.
We've got 7 degrees here at the lake.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, it's 7 above here.
Man, that'll freeze the rattlesnakes on, Richard.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it'll make them slow down a bunch.
How many blankets